Welcome to another episode of the Booktroverts podcast with your two favorite gals. I'm McKayla.
I'm Meg.
And today we are deep diving Rebecca Yarros' romance books as we prepare for the Onyx Storm release. January 21st cannot get here fast enough. The two books we are chatting about today are her new release Variation and then her wildly popular book In the Likely Event. As a rundown, we will be sharing the book description, our overall ratings, and then breaking down twists, shocking moments, thoughts on the plot and characters, and whether or not we enjoyed the book. So, without further ado, Meg, do you want to take it away with the Variation description?
Yeah, let's go for it. So, a new contemporary romance about the summer a celebrated dancer returns home and unearths years of family secrets and deep regrets with the Coast Guard rescue swimmer she never forgot. Elite ballerina Ali Rosso is no stranger to pressure. With her mother's eyes always watching, perfection was expected, no matter the cost. But when an injury jeopardizes all she sacrificed for, Ali returns to her summer home to heal and recover. But the memories she tried to forget rush in and threaten to take her under. As a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, Hudson Ellis knows the hesitation can mean the difference between life and death. He's always prided himself on being at the right place at the right time, especially when it came to Ali Rosso, until the night he left for basic. After the biggest regret of his life, the secrets he keeps mean he can never be with the one woman he wants more than his next breath. When Hudson's niece shows up to Allie's doorstep, desperate to find her birth mother, Allie finds herself in an unimaginable position. Allie and Hudson's past, present might be endlessly complicated. The threat tied them together to each other all those years ago may have unraveled, but the truth could pull them back together or drive them apart. Okay. Again, with me not reading this thing before I go into a book, so we're just gonna, I feel like that's gonna be a theme. But I'm so curious because I just finished this last night. What was your overall rating and thoughts on this book?
So I gave this one a 3.5.
Okay.
My main thought overall about like just book structure was I felt like the book moved extremely slow. Especially in the beginning, the first 20-25% were really hard to get through. I think, honestly, 50 to 100 pages could have been cut out to speed it up. Now, I'm not someone who falls into that, like, romance books need to be under 350. I don't mind a longer romance book, like a Lucy Score or like something like that. Like Meg and Quinn's last one we read, the Christmas one was like 500 pages. I do not mind a longer romance book if you actually have something to say. And I felt like there were so many chapters of this that could have been cut out or condensed. It felt really long. And then still just going with like book, like structure writing. I was not impressed with the writing style, specifically the first 20% of the book. It did not feel like a Rebecca Yarros book to me. I like where she like throws you right into things, like the beginning of Fourth Wing, you get thrown in right to like her on the parapet. This was so confusing because the timeline you didn't understand yet. So, like, we're jumping in at the past where he's rescuing her in the water. Got that. They're meeting. The next episode, you're bleeding in a car. And it's 15 months later. So I was really confused on what was going on. Also, there's a lot of characters in this book, and the names are being thrown at you in those first few chapters, and you know nothing about them. So it just felt like a lot of things being thrown at once. You have no clue where you are because it's like rescuing her 15 months later you're in a car accident, and then it jumps 10 years later. Also the beginning of the chapters with those like Reddit comments I don't think added anything to the book. It made it more confusing. So I was like, who are these people? What is this? And it was just one comment. It wasn't like a thread of comments. I don't know. I did not like that. It's funny because in the last episode, like, we loved those poems because they caught you up on the story. This, like, yeah, I was trying to give you the sense of, like, what people thought of them online, but I don't think it was necessary for every chapter to have that. That's kind of my thoughts. I also, like, felt like a lot of things were happening. I guess a lot of my issues were with the writing, which I feel so terrible saying because I love Rebecca. It just, like, it did not feel like a Rebecca Yarros book to me. A lot of things happened off page, which is a pet peeve of mine in books for any author. I just don't love that. But this one, it was like things were happening off page, and I think she thought you understood the characters more than you did. Like, things were happening in their mind, or they're piecing things together in their mind, but you're not being brought along for that thought process. And then when they, like, solved it, I was very caught off guard. And the best example of this is when they were figuring out who the father of Juniper was. And they're all in that like broom closet talking. They look at Jacob and they're like, oh, well, he was in San Francisco with her. His mom's on the board. It must be him. Flash to literally like the next page is the beginning of the next chapter. And they're going up and approaching the director of the ballet company. And I cannot say his name.
Vasily?
Vasily. And they're like, we know you're the father. I'm like, where the fuck did we get that from? I thought it was Jacob. And then it's like one line where Eva's like, oh, I pieced it together because of the dimples. And I'm like, did I know that he had dimples? Did I know that Juniper had dimples? Because if it was a throwaway sentence, it was not mentioned enough for me to have connected those dots. You know, like that really bothered me. I don't like when a twist, I don't feel like I could have figured it out myself. I think she thought you understood more about the characters at that point where you have figured that out than it actually felt like you did. At least in my experience. I don't know. Were you caught off guard by that? Sorry, this is jumping into a twist, but...
No, it's okay, because that's actually where my overall thoughts was all about the twists that were going on at the end of the book. I was completely shocked and confused as well. To your point, I thought it was Jacob. The only part that comes across as I guess this is what led us to believe that Vasily was the person that could be suspected, was the fact that Lena didn't get the position at the company and then all of a sudden did. I thought it was because of her mother's influence and the fact that her mother wanted her daughters to be there. That was just how it was going to be, whatever. I did not realize it was I slept with someone to get my position, which, by the way, I had to reread twice because I got really confused. I didn't believe that was happening. So for me, to your point, I fully agree. It definitely felt like I was trying to figure things out in a puzzle on the side that the characters figured out. And sometimes I need to be treated like a 5-year-old with some of this stuff and give me pieces. That way I can figure it out on my own or realize, if I looked in hindsight, it would have made total sense. So I'm with you. It was definitely confusing because a lot of her stuff and most of her writing that I've read, any books I've read by her, they give you those pieces that you could kind of get there. And this one felt, and what was tough for me, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping back a second, Vasily. When they were going over and they were on the boat talking to him, it never said his name again after they first walked into the room. It just said, he said, or this. So I go, wait, wasn't Jacob just in the room with them 2 seconds ago? Did he stay? Is he gone? Who's here? I was so confused. So it was a little tough for me, but I mean, overall it was a really cute story, but that was super tough because at the end I felt so confused and there was a lot. It was the last 50 pages were a lot.
Yeah, the other part too in that whole like unraveling of what was going on, I felt like that was such a whirlwind. They're figuring it all out in a broom closet during the competition.
That was hysterical.
I was, like you said, really confused by the Lena of it all. And I had to keep rereading that because the whole book she's being presented as this person who's like so full of life. She loved to dance. She was a great dancer and like just a good person. And then I was like, are they trying to say that she used this baby as like collateral to get her position? Because this seems so incongruous with the person that they've presented her as this entire book. Granted, I get the point was they were unraveling family secrets of their own, but that felt so out of left field to me that like I could have understood the mother doing something because she was a bitch the whole time, but that was hard for me to understand what was going on. First of all, I don't think it was spelled out very clearly like she got herself knocked up. It was the way it was worded was really vague, but it just was like, it was hard for me to process because I was like, you've built her to be this one thing that like would never do this, and now you're saying she literally got herself knocked up so she could get a position. Yeah. It just seems strange. And it just did not feel like Rebecca. Like every other book I've read from her, yes, there are twists and you're kind of kept in the dark, but none of them seem like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, you're like, oh, I could have figured that out, or yeah, this makes sense. But those two, which were the big twists, did not feel like you as the reader were brought along on that journey.
Yeah, and The other thing too was I liked their story. It was very cute of how they had the history and what was going on, and the twist that ended up happening with why Hudson was so, I guess, realizing that he's probably going to lose her anyways was, and I'm jumping ahead again, was the fact that he was the one that pulled her out of the car accident and didn't have enough time because he was trying to make sure that she didn't die and didn't go and save Lena. That was a shock I didn't see, but again, it was something that we were getting all of these details at the end. And first, I never picked up on that once during the entire thing because we got the, I'm doing air quotes around flashbacks that Allie had of the car accident, but that was at the beginning when she was kind of living the accident. But then again, a little bit later, but she couldn't remember anything because she lost a lot of her memory. And all she had was the fact that that no one else was there except for her sister. It was just the two of them. So there never was any little piece that said, oh no, maybe there was someone else. So the whole, she was going to quit dance and she was going to just do freelance and whatever. She was going to follow Hudson wherever he went for basic. None of that was there. And I kind of wish we got some of that because that would have brought a little more to their back and forth that they had during the whole story.
I completely agree. Like, if while they were hanging out that summer, it started to unlock little pieces of her memory, that would have been much better if it was sprinkled in. Because again, I spent the entire book thinking her sister committed suicide.
I thought the same thing. It was my first comment.
She says her sister brought her out and then walked back, opened the door and sat in the car, and then it blew up. So I'm like, that's someone committing suicide. You're walking back into a car on fire. And so the whole time I'm trying to figure out, why did she do this? Like, what? I'm so confused because, like, at that point, but I thought she was upset about giving the baby up for adoption. And so, again, it's like that last, like, 50 to 100 pages where, like, all this was info dumped. It's like, oh, Hudson was there. Your sister didn't commit suicide. She's actually this, like, vengeful person who trapped someone with the pregnancy to get ahead. She's more like your mother than you think. It was so many things being dumped at once. And I was just like, this book has been going on for so long. You could have, like, sprinkled some of these in throughout.
Yeah, and I think it was tough too because there were 4 daughters and they all had something going on that the mother created them into who they were today. Whether it was good or bad, anxious, stress, whatever the version of the daughter you got, there were 4 different ways that each of them went. And there was so much to dive into there. So much that I think it was probably too much to try to get into because we got surface level on a few of them, but I think because of how many problems were going on in that home, it just was a lot to just throw onto a person. I honestly think if they added more of that, it would have made sense for those 50, 100 pages, but because it was focused on Allie primarily and then we got bits and pieces as we went, it wasn't as breadcrumby as I would have expected with, kind of leading you to the fact that, yes, not everything is the mom, coordinating everything all the time.
Yeah. And that's a good segue into characters. But I just wanted to put one more little statement that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Would you recommend this book to people? And I ask that in the sense of it is very ballet and dance heavy. Lots of ballet terms. Lots of the ballet world and like the dance world in general and how it's very cutthroat but small at the same time. And people are doing this. You're doing whatever it takes to get ahead, get the position you want, especially when you're trying to go for those like prestigious companies. And I felt like I could relate and understand the characters because like growing up in that competitive dance world, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Like your dance teacher is yelling at you and treating you like crap and you're 10 years old. Like that makes sense to me. But I don't know if people who did not grow up with that experience or don't have anything to relate it to, like, I don't know if they would appreciate the book as much because that really influenced their personalities and how the girls all acted. And for me, I was like, this is spot on. Like, this is, yes, I totally get it. But I don't know if people who don't have an interest in dance or know anything about the dance world would like this book because it was so heavy on that.
I'm with you because at one point there were certain words I go, I know what this is, but I think people are going to have to highlight it if they're on a Kindle or they're going to have to Google it if they're not, just to understand what's going on so you can understand what kind of dance she's doing. Because there were parts where Rebecca explained the positions and the movements that she was going through, which I really liked because, like you said, it
Yeah.
brought me back to the dance world that we were in when we were kids, and I understood it, and I actually put this in my note. I felt a little like home because it was dance and I knew that world. But to people who don't, I think it's going to be a little confusing, or at least they might just
Yeah.
do the, I don't know what this means, so I'm just going to go with she's doing a beautiful dance and I'll keep going type thing. You know what I mean? And just kind of skip that is my assumption because it's just a
Yeah.
cute romance book. But my first choice would not be to, to recommend this to someone who doesn't have some dance knowledge would be able to understand it because
Yeah. There's a
first,
lot of
fifth,
technical
fourth,
terms.
yeah, there was a lot. And I mean, even some I go, I am totally saying this wrong because I've never seen this spelled. I've just heard it said. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's one of those. I go, what is this? Oh, that's what it is. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you'd have to really either skip that and just say, all right, she's doing some moves. We got it. That's cool. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like when we read anything with a hockey book or whatsoever, any sport really, try to go light on the terms and just, oh, we're running through these exercises. I don't need to know that you're doing suicides on the, the field or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say it's a
Yeah.
little tough.
Like, I think I was able to appreciate Allie more because I totally understood, like, what she was going, especially,
Yeah.
like, the turns she's doing when she gets injured in the beginning. Like, I know how difficult those turns, like, those took me years to be able to master. And I know just how much stability you need on your ankle to do that turn because your other leg is fully sweeping out. That's core, ankles, everything. And so the thought of like that going out mid turn, I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, I'd be on the floor screaming in pain too. Like, that is holding your entire. Or like, if someone just like doesn't know what those turns look like, they're like, oh, she's just doing a turn. But I think it's because like I've done those turns. I know what it feels like to do them, and to be doing so many in a row. And and I knew like when she got distracted because she thought she saw him, and I was like, this, like, just that one thing. I said, this is going down because the second you lose your spot,
Yep.
you're fucked.
Oh, yeah.
It's so hard to get that back while you're in. So like things like that, like I understood, but I just feel like people who don't have an interest or don't have a background in dance, they'll miss those little nuances in the book of like that kind of are foreshadowing.
Completely agree. Yeah, it's funny. The point where she looked just for that second, I go, I have made that mistake and totally have fallen just because you lose your
Yeah.
focus. Any
Yeah.
second you lose your focus, you are out of the game. It's
Yeah.
very
And
tough to get back.
Your momentum goes down because then you're trying to get it back. You're spending your energy
Yeah.
trying to yeah. So
Oh my
I knew.
God.
I
And
was like, this is going down.
And I had PTSD a bit because I hated point shoes. We did it for 1 year. And I literally said, I am not doing this ever again because my ankles are really bad. They're horrible to this day, and it's probably
Yeah.
worse because of not keeping up with the strength with them. But I just could not do it. My left leg just did not want to behave. I said, this isn't going to work for me. I'm going to get myself killed just from, falling
Yeah.
into falling into the bar or whatnot. I go, I can't do this. I'm not. But I give people credit. I mean, I was watching the parade the other day and just seeing the dancers in point shoes in the rain. I go, bravo.
Yeah.
I can never do that again. It's it's amazing.
See,
Not
that's
my
like
thing.
another perfect example, like that scene. So I never did point because we weren't at my studio. We were not allowed to do point until you were 13 because that's when your foot, like your bones are fully developed in your foot. And by the time I reached that age, like my knees and my ankles were shot. There was no way I was going up on point. It would have been dangerous for me. But I think if you don't understand like the age restrictions around point and all of that, you would not fully understand why when Allie's at the dance studio watching Juniper up on point, she's fuming. And she's like, this is very dangerous. This is unsafe. And then later they end up having a conversation like, you're too young to be on point. And her being like, well, my teacher said if I felt comfortable, I could do it. Like, it's a big no-no. Whether you're comfortable or not, your foot is not at the point to be able to do point. Like, you're really wrecking your bones and your feet because you're trying to get ahead of it early. That I remember was like a big safety thing that was always pushed. It was not based off of like what company level you are. Like I was the older one in my groups. I was eligible for point a year before everyone else. because you had to wait until you had hit that point. And you had to make sure your ankles, your knees were all good. Like, it was so much safety concern around it. So I understood why she's standing in the thing being pissed. But I don't think you even got the explanation for, like, 20 more pages.
I was going to say the only... I'm going to sound
and why
bad
she
here.
reported the studio, because that was, like, you know, it was a safety concern.
Yeah, the fact that Hudson has no dance experience, obviously, because, you know, it wasn't his thing as a kid, but the fact that his sister didn't do dance or anyone in his family, you know, weren't in that world, it was really nice because he was completely oblivious and they had to explain it to him of why it was wrong. And I think that was so needed, because if you just had it as just a straight ballet book, good luck to anyone not in ballet whatsoever or any dance type of background. So it was really nice having Hudson there to level set and say, okay, what is going on? Because I understand we're angry that she's here doing dance and we didn't know about it, you know, but what's really the problem here? So it was nice getting his point of view and getting the explanation from Allie in that way. So I kept appreciating Hudson throughout the book of, thank you, can you give me this reasoning? Because even though I might know it, other readers might not, just because they're not in that world.
Yeah. She did a great job describing, like, dance culture, ballet culture, professional dancing. I don't know if she has any experience herself or maybe her kids or something, but she did a really good job. I thought it was an accurate representation of dancer mentality and just, like, the craziness that goes on behind the scenes.
The company, and just, I think Allie had said it, I am trying to wear so many faces to so many different people just to blend in. And it is terrifying how that world can be that way. I mean, I know there's been shows on, you know, dance moms and stuff like that, and they kind of go a little bit into it. But when you're in it day to day, it's totally different. I don't know how to explain it to people who aren't in it, because, you know, they just see it as you're up there on a stage and you're doing your thing and that's great, but it's all behind the scene things that can be completely different. And
yeah, it's like a cult.
It's a cult. Yeah. I mean, it really is. The dance world was a cult, at least for where we are. It's just, you knew what studios you had to go against and compete, you know, you know which ones are, all right, if they mess up here, you've got it, all this stuff.
And there's certain things that, like, for anyone else, you'd be like, why are you putting up with this? But, like, when you're in it, you're like, no, this is what I need to do. It's not until you're removed, years removed, that you can look back and be like, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think about it now of just the stuff that we went through. I go, what did we do? This is crazy. It's just the whole situation. But, I mean, when you're in it, you're in it. It's...
Yeah, being, like, 8 years old, getting your costume at the beginning of the year and being told, like, this costume needs to fit you till the end of the year, so make sure it does. Like... You know,
I want a donut, damn
young kids being put in Spanx to be able to fit and look nice in costumes.
I know. It is so bad for your self-image, self-love, all of that. And I will say, I think everything. I think we definitely are on the good side of it. And I don't know if it's because I didn't continue through my 20s and whatnot, where it would have been just a persistent thing. I don't know. I think every person has a different way that they deal with it or how they've taken that type of perspective. But it's just, it's crazy. It is an insane world. It is totally, oh my God. And going on one of the things, she mentioned that the mother's hair was perfectly parted on the left side. I go, oh, this is so accurate. You had the specific, you know, hairstyle comb that you had to cut it over, everything. It's just... It brought me back. I felt like I was Juniper in that book sometimes of, oh my God, I'm going through it. I'm here. I'm doing the dance. I'm trying to get used to the moves and all of this stuff. It was...
And it wasn't just you as the dancer who had to, like, be perfect. Your parents, whoever was doing it with you, was involved too. Like, my mom needed to make sure she bought the right type of rhinestones. It was rhinestoned in the right way. She did the makeup the correct way. Like, it was a lot of pressure on her too as the dance mom to make sure that, like, I was presented correctly. It was just a lot. And I thought she did a good job, like, explaining the absolute craziness of it.
100% agree. And I give anyone credit who's in that world. I'm just going to, as a side note, it's just... To your point, I don't know how our moms did it with having to be more accurate than I think where I was. I just had to show up and do the dance. She had to do everything else, so thank you.
Yeah. It was nuts.
Yeah. Crazy.
Should
But
we?
I think I've gone over a lot. Do you want to go into the characters now and kind of,
Yeah. Yeah, we can do
all
that.
right.
Do you want me to give my ratings on kind of all this stuff?
I think so, yeah. Then we can
Okay.
deep dive into each person in the plot after.
Okay. Yeah, so we kind of like talked about like overall thoughts and the plot came up. So I thought the plot overall like a 3. Spice, I gave a 2. There wasn't a ton of scenes between Hudson and Allie, mainly because they were fake dating and they had like all this history between them. The banter, I gave a 2 because, I don't know, it was a little bit more like push and pull. They didn't really talk too much, and it was a lot of just like trying to keep up the roost of like fake dating. And the characters, I gave a 3.5 because there was just a few too many of them, I thought. It was just like, it was hard. There was a lot. And there was a lot of characters I just did not like. Which doesn't mean like they weren't well written characters. I just could not stand them. So I guess I can talk about Allie, and then do you want to give your ratings and then talk about Allie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Allie obviously is our main character, and like I was saying, like I just thought she was a perfectly written example of a professional dancer that really highlighted her focus and dedication to the sport. And yes, dance is a sport, and I liked when Juniper called that out.
Yeah.
I really liked how we watched her throughout the book learn that work-life balance. She didn't need to be all dance all the time, because that is what gets you in trouble. That's what causes you to get injured, because you're overworking your body. Taking that time away to go camping or do whatever, like it was good for her mental health and her overall recovery. And it was very clear that her mom's abuse, that's what it was, had really affected her, and she was basically living her life for her sister Lena and not for herself.
Yeah.
Because she felt like, I'm the reason my sister's not alive and doesn't have these opportunities, when it wasn't her fault at all. And her mom, instead of giving her the truth, let her live with that to get her to like be her best, for like be the best in the dance world, which was terrible. And then I just noted that I loved at the end when, I think it was in the epilogue or whatever, her and Hudson ended up getting married, and I loved that she ended up changing her last name, even because her last name carried so much weight in the dance world. And she didn't, like, she finally got to that point where she did not care about the status and what people thought of her. And she was just like, I love this man. I'm going to take his last name like a normal person. And I think that was her taking her identity back and forging her own path. And I really loved that.
Oh my God, I am with you 100%. I actually was so happy when she corrected the person in front of her and said, "Oh no, it's Allie Ellis now." I mean, she said her whole name, but
Yeah.
I just loved that part. It was so good. I felt like it was a nice, sassy way of saying, "Thank you very much. I'm my own person. Have a great day. Go watch the show."
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to do your ratings
Yeah.
before I jump into
right.
like the list of like 20 characters that were in this book?
I just have to pause for a second and say that thank you for writing down notes for each character, because I did that typical where I wrote notes just for the 2 main characters and go, there were so many other people that I have comments on, but I didn't separate it that way. So I go, all right, I'm going to organize my notes. So I figured. So I go, this is good.
Yeah, how many do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people, and then just other.
Other, which there were at least 4 or 5 in the other category. Too many
characters.
Too many. So yeah, so for my ratings, I did 4. So I was a little bit higher than you, and I think, and I'll go into it further with each character, but Hudson really was the reason why I think I had a little bit higher. Spice I did 2, because it was there, but it wasn't really extravagant. It wasn't a lot. It didn't really hold the story, which I kind of liked. The plot I had at 4, just because I really liked them. And then banter I had as 2. It was, like you said, they talked, but it wasn't a banter focused book. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't like flirtatious banter.
Yeah, they had some back and forth, but it was more pent up 11 years of emotions. So
yeah,
if that goes with banter, then, that's the category there. And then to your point about Allie, I really loved how she had so many different angles and different perspectives. So some days she was super, she had a huge depression after her injury, but she also had that passion with dance. And I think obviously after the injury, she goes back to the house and all of that. And one thing I really wrote down was Juniper is the reason why I think she fell in love with dance again and found why she wanted to be in it, not because of her mother, not because of the expectations that the four girls had when they were kids, and actually the expectations that are still continuing, but it was really just, I felt everything she was going through, and the fact that Juniper brought it back and brought her back to life in a way, I really liked it. So for me, I thought Allie was really good, but she had those other people that kind of brought her, into a better view of herself. So that was, I liked it. It was good. She did a good job with Allie. Well done, Rebecca.
I agree. Allie was well written. And then obviously we have to talk about Hudson. He was the other main character. So I put that, I absolutely loved him, and I wrote such a pea-jam, which is a phrase from a podcast I listened to, and it means precious gem of a man. That's the only way I could think to describe him in my head. Just the perfect good guy. Like, doesn't have many bad qualities about him. And I wrote that I totally understood why he didn't talk to Allie for 10 years because of the way Allie's mom put such a guilt trip on him. Like, she's never going to forgive you. Like, he was 18. I could totally understand that feeling. So it made sense to me once we figured out what had happened there. And then I thought it was really sweet that he still managed, like, he kept up with her still throughout the years, and he knew that her performing in Giselle was such a big deal that he still showed up for that performance. That was so sweet. And at the end of the day, he was willing to take her like any way he could get her, and he truly never wanted to interfere with like her recovery, her dreams of being a dancer. Like, he was never telling her to stop dancing. He was willing to change his life to fit into hers, which I always appreciate, because I feel like a lot of times it's expected that the woman will change her life and be the one to compromise and like mold into the guy's life, and he was willing. He was like, I'm not asking you to change anything. Go work for any company and I will find a way to be where you are.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And to add to with him kind of saying, no, my dreams change and all of that, I will say I absolutely loved how he really balanced her, what she needed in the moment. So there were things that I think Gavin at the end was saying, why aren't you running after her and trying to win her back? And he said, Allie needs time. She needs to analyze it and figure it out. She's not the type of person who I can go rushing in with this grand gesture. It's no, the grand gesture is letting her think about it and figuring it out. And I absolutely loved, I can understand people probably were sad about it, but I loved how he went after his dream anyways and said, no, I'm going to Alaska for 3 years and that's it. And I'm going to follow my dream and we'll figure it out. And if the time isn't right, we'll get to each other when it is. So I just love that. I thought it was hysterical though, how he was moving, but she came running back to go and find him and all this stuff, and they always kept missing each other by a little bit. But I really thought he was just genuine and just was always there. And like you said, the guilt, I mean, my God, the fact that you're 18 and you're told that she's never gonna choose you, it's gonna always be the death of her sister is gonna be outweigh it, and everything was so much. I mean, at 18, I don't care that you're technically an adult at that point. That is such a pivotal time, too, of just hearing that from someone who is super strict. I mean, this family's ridiculous without the mother. It had them all following in her steps and everything. It just, I can't even imagine that guilt for 11 years. But yeah. Oh my God, the one thing, though, that I absolutely loved, I should have highlighted the specific wording, but he basically said every time he goes out there, he thinks he's rescuing, her. Oh my God. I just well, this is it. Love him. Awesome. I don't know. For me, she just does a really good job with the male main character, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
I loved him. He was great.
Yeah, me too.
We have to talk about the Juniper of it all, because she's like the reason why they were brought together.
Yeah.
Kind of the worst 10-year-old I've ever met. Okay. I guess she really wanted to dance and like find out about her birth family, but she freaking went around, manipulated every single person in that family, did not care about the consequences. Like, your mother, we find out, had these rules for a reason. Like, you were jeopardizing your own well-being you could have been taken from your family. But she did not care. She did not care about anyone's feelings. She's like, oh, well, you two can just fake date. It's fine. Like, what? Getting Gavin to take her to ballet classes. Like, she was putting everyone at risk of, like, causing tension within the family. And just extremely reckless, which I guess kids are. I don't know. I was just like, this is why I cannot stand children. But, like, going on point at 10 when you cannot do it till 13. And she's like, well, I felt ready. Your body's not ready. Skipping school to go to Allie's house. And she's like, oh, I just said that, like, I have a doctor's appointment. What? Swinging into the lake after her mom was like, make sure there's adults in there. And she's fucking drowning. And then they, like, say something. And she's like, well, you were close enough. He was trying to have a moment, and he had to stop it to come and get you because you couldn't just wait 5 minutes. And then the worst, sneaking onto the boat for the reception.
I know.
Overhearing the conversation, which she wasn't supposed to hear. Oh, and then she falls off, and Allie has to jump into the water. Like, the most reckless 10-year-old I've ever seen.
Oh my God. I think at one point Allie said she would be a great CEO with the fact that she manipulated everyone into doing what she wanted at the end of the day. So obviously in business world, she'd freaking thrive and would go up the ranks with that type of attitude. She was so sneaky, way smarter than any 10-year-old that I have ever interacted with in my life. I know that they mentioned low-key that she's in, you know, higher classes and everything and is super smart in that sense. But she was such a, I guess any kid is pretty much that way. So I take it for granted when I say this, but super self-centered and wanting everything surrounding her needs and that's it. I mean, she literally had everyone just sitting there. Yes, okay, Juniper, we'll do this for you. Oh, we want to go against your mother. All right, we'll do it to make you happy because we're gonna throw out the uncle card here and just do whatever we want. So I thought that was hysterical. She did not care. And I don't know, I liked it, but at the same time, it was just, oh my God, pay attention.
Yeah, like, she was entertaining, but, like, I was, like, putting myself, like, no, I cannot have a child like this. I can't. I'm going nuts.
No, and I want to jump only to Caroline just because this ties to it. But the fact that Juniper was so, my mom doesn't want me to do dance, I kept questioning the entire time. And the reason why I wanted to jump to Caroline specifically was she did not give any reasoning to anyone why she didn't want to do dance. I really thought it was because she hated the sisters and she did not like the dance world whatsoever. Body images, all that stuff, like how we had talked about earlier. So I just kept getting confused why she was so against it the whole time. And then obviously find out it was because of the adoption, you know, the secrecy and everything there with the rules and all of that. But in my head, I just go, why is there so much against this without giving your daughter a reason or giving at least your brothers a reason to why you're so against the situation. So I felt like that was drawn out for so long of why she hated it instead of give some information on what was going on. But yeah, that I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to with the sneaking behind her mother's back and doing the dance anyways. It just, I don't know. She was an okay character for me is all I'm going to say for Caroline. But
I had much different thoughts. I literally put hate. She was such a bitch the whole book. I did not like her at all. Even when you found out, like, what her thought process were, did not like her. Like, it did not change my opinion on her. I hated her with a passion. She was so rude to Allie. And honest, like, the reasonings you're getting in the beginning is like, oh, my best friend had to be cut from a dance class so her sister could go into it. Oh, they dropped a milkshake on the floor and didn't do it. It wasn't even Allie. It was her other sisters. So I was like, this is so petty. Like, childish things that you're holding on to into, like, your 30s. Get over it. She was that person who, to me, the whole book, I was like, you're stuck in high school. Move on. You're stunted. It felt so petty, her reasoning for that. And then, take that aside, just the way she treated her actual family. Like, telling Hudson that when they were talking about Alaska, and she's like, you're gonna leave me? Like, you can't leave me. Like, bitch, sorry your husband died from cancer. You chose to have a child, though. You gotta grow up. You have to learn how to parent your child. Your parents are offering help, and you're telling them no, but then you're telling your brother that he has to give up his dreams and stay with you because you're scared to do something that you made the choice to take on. Like when you become a parent, like, yeah, you think you're going to do it with someone else, but you have to be prepared for there might be a time where I have to do it by myself. Yeah. And I just felt like she was an extremely selfish character. Like, oh my God. Hated the cafe, 100%. But then refused to give the cafe up because it meant so much to her parents. I think they wanted you to feel bad for her in that sense. I'm like, I don't feel bad for you. You're just someone who can't make a decision. You can't take ownership of your own life. You just expect everyone to come in and like save you for it. I couldn't. And then even at the end, when everything came out and she learns that Juniper is a Russo and she's part of this family, never once did she apologize for all of the hateful things she said about that family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your child is literally from that family. You could say, like, I'm so sorry. I thought of you guys so different. Never once did Allie get an apology.
This is where I think a lot of it happened off page is because...
Well, because clearly they made up because she's at the show at the end.
Right.
Till the very end, all of her dialogue you got was just so mean. Telling Hudson he couldn't date her because she didn't like her. Allie, fuck off. Like, no one wants to date you, Caroline, because you're the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you might not like your brother's girlfriend and stuff like that. Let's just start there. You might not like your sibling's significant other. I'm just going to go, neutral here for the reason of that. However, I think there's only been one time I might have said that to my brother, and it was because of legit facts of, okay, this is seriously an issue. This might not be the best move, for you type thing, but never have I specifically said, you can't do this because I don't like this person. That is the weirdest thing ever, because I understand they were so family focused on both sides of Hudson would do anything for his family and Allie would do the same for her family and whatnot, but I just, no. And then the mother basically at that point was just, please ignore her. She's being ridiculous. And to your point, yeah, she was stuck in that small town high school vibe of I can't get past these things. And to your point, Allie didn't do anything specific. It was all other siblings. At that point, they're not all the same. Just because my sibling does something doesn't make me that same person, and vice versa. That would be the stupidest logic.
Yeah, and like telling your sibling, like, hey, I don't think this is the right person for you. Okay, that's fine. You're looking out for their well-being.
Yeah.
But to then go out of your way to make this person feel uncomfortable and unwanted at events is so uncalled for. Like, that's just basic human decency. If someone's there with you, you just, like, keep it light, be respectful. Like, you don't have to be best friends, but you don't have to, like, if you have nothing classic, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Yep. And she went out of her way to be just nasty to her at events, and I could not. Caroline was the worst. I don't blame Juniper. I'd want to find my birth parents too so I could go live with them and away from this witch. I would have been like, see ya. My mom was embarrassing.
Wicked Witch
She's
of the
mean.
West, basically.
Yeah, I did not like her at all. But I guess this is a good segue into like the rest of the family members. So
yeah.
On Hudson's side, really, we got a little bit of his parents, but not too much. The other person we got was Gavin, the brother, and we needed more of him. More Gavin, less Caroline.
Thank you.
He was the comedic relief, but he was only like in a handful of chapters, but his lines were so good, and I really wish we had learned more about Lena through his eyes, because he dated her for that summer right before she had gotten pregnant, and he obviously had feelings for her because he alludes like, if I was the one that saw the car accident, like I would have saved her over Allie's. I wish we just would have gotten a little bit of his perspective of her, but like there was not enough Gavin and I needed more.
No, so I have the same notes. The only thing I wanted to add was I felt like there was something holding him back, or that, there's just something there. And I understand he's a side character, but I wanted to dive deeper into, they kind of alluded, oh, make sure your brother is there on time, or make sure he's there to pick up Juniper and stuff like that, but he's never let her down anyways. So I didn't understand what they were trying to get at, and maybe it was that fact that he wasn't there to save Lena at that point. It was Allie who was saved at, in that time. But I wanted more of him. I really wish that we got a balance between the siblings, and it was every time we saw one of them, you got both. It was,
that'd be
that
nice.
way it could balance, because at least it would have balanced out the sassiness you were getting for Caroline. Because he was so much
I
could do with a story on him, though. Like, I don't think Rebecca's ever done these, but I feel like Gavin could be a really good dive deep into what's
yeah.
going on with him. Yeah.
He'd be good. Yeah, I think he was just supposed to be like that goofy, like irresponsible sibling that you have. And then we have Allie's siblings. So I guess we'll start with Anne because she's with Anne for most of the book.
Yeah.
And I just like was neutral on her. I felt bad for her that like I really felt bad isn't even the right word. Like just felt terrible for this woman that she was getting a divorce based on solely on the fact that she was struggling to get pregnant. Like sometimes it just doesn't happen for women. Like that's how our bodies work. And the fact that her husband was just like, you can't get me a child, bye. Like there are other options that they could have explored. I felt so bad for her because clearly she loved this person. She didn't want to take the rings off. So fuck her ex-husband.
Yeah.
I loved that she was so protective of Allie and really just like wanted to make sure that she got to have a relationship with Juniper. Like she was definitely the mother hen of the sisters.
Yeah. Completely agree. I to add to the feeling bad of what was going on with her too, we learn at the end that the mother had dementia and that she was taking over basically everything to keep things running so that no one would see that there was an issue there. She has the whole divorce going on, trying to deal with the grief of the fact that you can't have your own child and that your, ex-husband doesn't want even an adoption, all that stuff, because you are broken that you couldn't do it, all of that. And it's just, and then on top of it, she has all the family stuff going on. She's trying to take care of Allie. Like, she was definitely there to be, like you said, the mother hen and the backbone in a way, but you could see that she was also breaking at times. And I think Hudson had even mentioned of, great, there's two sisters that are breaking in front of me. I don't know what to do because it's just keep adding it. But she was kind of, neutral, liked her. She was good to have there as an extra character, but she didn't really add too much to the overall story for me.
And then on the complete opposite spectrum, right up there with Caroline, Eva, what a bitch.
Oh my God.
I knew something was up with her from the beginning, but I did not expect her to stoop as low as she did. Honestly, at the end, when she got embarrassed when Allie did the performance and people realized that she lied, she deserved everything she got. And the fact that Allie was like, I'll give you the password so you can take the video down was too nice of her. If I was Allie in that position, I would have been like, you're dead to me. You're cut off. Like, I don't care that we're family. Like, that was so bad that she secretly recorded her sister, put it on the internet, changed the password after she was really only getting followers. Like, they had to have a combined account because all she cared about was followers. And she knew she couldn't get it on her own because people didn't give a fuck who she was. They only liked her sister. And then went behind her sister's back after her sister taught her the choreography, went and stole her spot. And then turned out she was a conniving bitch, just like the mom. Like, she blackmailed the director. I hated her. Another one. And like, she really didn't redeem herself at the end either.
No, she was totally looking for the mother's approval. It was I am the fourth daughter in this family. I've always been in others' shadows basically the entire time. She totally was that the youngest child syndrome vibe that you get sometimes where they just, do whatever they want and they don't care and it's all about them. But I mean, she was 25 at the time that the book was, and then obviously the epilogues 5 years later, and she still was in a way of just super sassy. I just think that's how her personality was. She was never going to change. And to your point, I'm shocked that Allie forgave her so quick. I think it would have been either she completely cut her off or I'm just not going to talk to you for a while. And then it was years down the line, they make up and then you see them together, whatever type thing. But I just cannot picture myself ever doing that to someone, is recording them secretly just to be able to get that position. It's just not how I am. But I guess it goes back to the dynamic that she had growing up, was their mother kind of pretty much just put them in that position of, if one falls down, you've got to pick it up. And she was the last to keep it going if all the other sisters couldn't continue, which is just fucked up mindset anyways to begin with. But
yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Lena was the last sister. Like I said at the beginning, I legit thought she committed suicide the whole book. And then her basically using the pregnancy to get ahead, I was shocked. And I just noted that I liked her the whole book with the way the sisters talked about her.
Yeah.
And then once we actually found out her, like, what she really did and her real personality, completely soured my taste on her and I did not like her anymore. That was like one sentence ruined her for me.
Oh my God. I kept thinking, are they lying that she's this way? And that is really the mother orchestrating everything? But then we find out, oh no, it really was how she was doing things. It just, I would have really liked if it was all on the mom, as bad as that sounds. Just keep it consistent. I don't think we needed the fact that she was the one who orchestrated things. It would have been totally fine if the, it was yeah, I want this position, so I'm just, sleeping with him to get the role and accidents happen, whatever. And then the mom just created everything else. I would have liked if they just had one bad person as the focus, but I didn't like how they put a bad taste in Juniper's mind of what her parents were doing. Her biological parents, because that just broke me at the end when she goes, they didn't even want me. It was just kind of a product of, hatred and manipulation and stuff like that. That was really tough. I don't think I liked that in the book at all, but
yeah, well, that's a perfect transition into the mother, and what a terrible mother she was. And honestly, definitely have witnessed moms like that in the dance world. Like, she's a dance mom to the extreme. I just put in my notes, like, I hope the girls, specifically Allie, leave her to fucking die in that assisted living home with no visits. Like, I would not be going back to visit her. The way she just repeatedly said to Allie, I wish it was you who got killed and not Lena. Fuck you. Like, I'm sorry. You have four children. I hate moms or parents that make it very clear that one is the favorite over the other. And that was her. She was terrible till the end. And I hate her.
it was so bad. Oh my God, it was terrible. What I actually put, it's the stereotypical dad coaching a sport and they living their goal through their kid of, but in this term it was the mom. You know what I mean? We always hear of the typical dad coaching the baseball team and their kid's a superstar because they had wanted to be, and whatever, and they really don't live up to their expectations. But it was just, she did not care what those girls wanted. It was all about her because she couldn't continue her her dream, so she needed to force it upon them. And I mean, even down to the end, we learned obviously that she had dementia and she could only speak really in one or two words at a time, but she was still screaming at those girls to do the positions for the fifth first. I what she's just, I think that's her vibe, and that's it. I could not stand her from the beginning whatsoever. Had no care in the world for this person, and
yeah,
it was a shock that she had dementia. I just thought she was a bitch and just didn't want to speak to her kids and only wanted to do one or two words at a time. So that was a little of an interesting twist, but I was fine with her kind of not really being there as often. She got mentioned, but I was glad that we didn't have a lot of dialogue with her because I could not stand her.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on something being off with her, but I thought she had like a mental health issue. I didn't realize it was like a dementia thing, but yeah, she sucked. And then I guess I'll just kind of like lump everyone else into like this other category, just because like we still have to talk about another book and we've been yapping for an hour. Kenna, I thought it was so sweet that she took the month off to go to Cape Cod to rehab Allie. I really liked their friendship, and I felt like she kind of helped move Allie and Hudson's relationship along. Her mom was really funny too.
Oh my God, I loved the mom. It was such an unexpected twist of having her in there. I was fine with it. I was here for it.
She was great. I liked her too. Everett, I just had to include him in here because, like, what an idiot for signing the birth certificate. You can't falsify a legal document, dumbass.
Oh my God.
And my third thing, this is just like more of a question. How old is Vastly supposed to be? Because I'm just picturing him as a dirty old man who knocked up an 18-year-old.
I thought the same thing.
He has to be like 50s, 60s.
I thought he was older. The same age as the mom, as Sophie.
So that's gross. Yeah.
And that's where I was so confused on obviously it was orchestrated, but I really thought it was this, oh no, I'm just, you've got to sleep with me to get the position. I kept thinking of that, that power move. It just, I don't like him at all. I cannot stand him whatsoever. It just is disgusting. Anyone in that position would, regardless of what the circumstances was. But yeah, I just picture a dirty old man too. Yeah. Gross. Also, I just had randomly love that Hudson saves that dog at the beginning and then Allie adopts her. That was like the only good thing that I really liked from that beginning. piece
Yeah, because
was
they were gonna leave the dog at first, and I was like, "What?"
God. No, you
Okay,
saved that
if
dog.
that happened, I would have shut the book.
Yep. Yeah, so that already made me like Hudson at the beginning, was he saved a dog.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah. Were
Did you
there
have
any
anything
other
else?
thoughts that you had?
I was gonna say, did you have any more character thoughts? No, because I think we went over like my
Yeah.
thoughts on the twists and the shocking moments. And honestly, for other thoughts, I just had that I liked it, but it's not my favorite Rebecca Yarros book. I definitely liked it more than I liked The Last Letter by her. But Things We Leave Unfinished, I think, is still a way better book than this. And like I said at the beginning, if you're looking for a romance book, I think you'd like it. It's long, but if you don't have any interest in dance, it is really heavy on that. So go into it with that knowledge.
I agree. Yep. No words, no notes.
Okay. Well, with that, we can move into the second book.
Sounds good.
So then we read In the Likely Event, which is, we did not, we picked the books before this news came out, but it is being turned into a movie, which after reading this book, I'm so freaking excited. I
I did
cannot
not
wait.
know this. Oh my
Yeah, I
God.
sent it to you.
Ah,
I think
oh my
Prime,
God.
but
I
don't
don't know
quote me on
why
that.
I thought it was the other one that was going to be a book. I mean, a movie. The
No,
Things We
this
Leave
one.
Unfinished. Oh my
This
God. Okay,
one.
I
I'm
totally read
very
that
excited.
wrong. Oh, I'm so excited.
I
All
have no
right.
clue who will play the characters because, like, I didn't picture anyone. There wasn't a ton of description about them, but, like, I cannot wait.
No, but I know, yeah. I'll leave my comments till when we get into it.
Yeah.
So,
So here's what the book is about. So when Izzy Astor gets on a plane to go home, she isn't expecting much. It's the usual holiday travel experience, busy, crowded, stressful. Then she spots her seatmate, who is anything but ordinary. Nate Phelan sports dark hair, blue eyes, I guess there's a description, and a deliciously rugged charm that Izzy can't resist. Their connection is undeniable. Izzy never believed in destiny before, but she does now. Just 90 seconds after takeoff, their plane goes down in the Missouri River. Their lives change, they change. Nate goes on to a career in the military while Izzy finds her way into politics. Despite a few chance encounters over the years, the timing never feels right. Then comes a high stakes reunion in Afghanistan where Nate is tasked with protecting Izzy's life. He'll do anything to keep her safe and everything to win her heart. All right. Overall rating and thoughts. Go.
okay. I rated it a 5. This one, I was crying like crazy. I don't know what hit me, but it was just so emotional at times and for me, if you get that type of emotion and reaction for me, it's gonna at least be a 4 or 5. Or at least I hope it's gonna be a good book towards the end. But I just could not get over the fact that they had fate bring them together constantly. It really was that, whirlwind of they're brought together at the plane and just she has super anxiety anyways about flying and he's just calming her down. He was definitely her rock. And from the beginning they have that instant connection. And then ironically we get the flashbacks, which I thought were really well done. It just gave us pieces of the puzzle from the past that were relevant to the current timeline. So when I was taking my notes, it was, oh, okay, we're flashback 5 years. So we're going to get some point of why they're frustrated at each other for this moment. So I thought it was really good that we got that piece because I didn't get confused. It flowed nicely. It wasn't as if we got three, different past point of views and they didn't make sense to what was going on in the moment. It was you find out more about, Serena being there as well. Then we got a flashback to why she was going into that type of career and stuff. So I thought it was really good. Um, Again, I said it with Hudson, but I just loved Nate so much. I think he really held the story for me and just brought it all together because he has so many different layers. So I won't get too far into it because I don't want to get into his character as much because I want to hear your thoughts too. But I just really liked how she did the story with the two of them, and I felt like I was there a little bit with the war. It felt very much of oh, you're in this moment and you're seeing the anxiety and the worries of this is real, this is happening. Because as bad as it sounds, it's been things that have happened day to day, and it probably still will. So it's very real. It's just how close you are to that, to the being, in your life and whatnot. So I just thought it was well done. What did you have on it?
Okay, so like This is the most ridiculous rating and reason for my rating. I gave it a 4.75, and like I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, but like it had too much of a happy ending for me.
All right, I gotta process that.
Okay, because I loved this book, first of all. Like, I read this in less than 24 hours. Variation took me days. This, I literally stayed up, read it, because could not put it down. Loved how they kept finding their way back to each other over the past 10 years, even sometimes without even, like, knowing. Like, the first time they meet up in Georgia, they didn't even know where each other were. They had no contact with each other since the plane crash. Like, loved it. Loved the dual timelines. Like you said, it really flowed well into the story. The pacing of the book was fantastic. This was perfect length. Like, Variation should have been this length. Every scene was important to the relationship. There was no fluff in there, which I appreciated. Now, the reason why I couldn't give it a 5 was because normally I would never complain. If it's a happy ending, everything works out. Yeah, 5 stars, that's what you want. But because they were in a war zone, which was so high stakes, so life or death, it felt unrealistic to me that, like, Serena and Taj both happened to make it to the plane right at the last second. Nate gets out unscathed and then immediately, like, goes and quits the army, and now, like, everyone's together, and it's like kumbaya. Now, I don't like a character death, but I just felt like because it was a war book, this country's falling while they're there. I did feel like we needed, like, a big character death to really have the emotional impact. Like, I literally recorded myself. I was 96% done with the book, and I say in it, like, I have a feeling something bad is going to happen. It's going to destroy me. I hope it doesn't, but I think it's going to. So, like, I thought Serena was going to miss the plane. It didn't even need to be a death, like, them missing the plane and having to find a different way to get back. But then it was just like, oh, someone's knocking on the door. Oh, they're here. And they were completely unscathed. Like, she didn't have any injuries to her. Like, yeah, a little muddy. But they were saying that reporters were having, like, gun shots on them. Like, they were perfectly fine. The visa was able to... I just felt like we needed something at the end that had more of, like, oh my God, emotional gut punch, just because of the stakes of the situation they were in. Does that make sense?
No, it completely does, because as much as it was a war heavy area and they were traveling to different locations that were all falling and everything, and their main base is what I'm going to call it, was the final straw pretty much of get her out on the plane and go away. But to your point, it was very happy. I would have, going to sound bad because I never want to say bring the war actually into the book, but it would have actually been a really interesting point of view if they started getting more, because we had that explosion that happened, but then they were fine. There was no people invading. It wasn't, I felt like there was life and death situations in the book, but I think if there was more of a punch at the end of, okay, there was an explosion, people are invading, we need to get you out of here. And even to your point, even if it wasn't a character death, it was just more of something going on, it would have been nice if we got build up of a lot of stress. And we did get the fact that Serena is saved is because Nate basically said, you need to go, I need to go and do what I have to do, which was going and saving Serena and bringing her back. And that was great and everything, but I kind of would have liked if we got his point of view having to save Serena, because what happened? What did you have to do? I don't need all the details, because I know there's stuff that we probably will never find out what people do over there, and it's probably better at sleeping at night not knowing, as bad as it sounds, but I would have liked a little bit more. Give me something. Give me, the hardship you had to go through to get her or whatever. That would have been nice.
Yeah. So, like, I feel terrible saying that, but, like, I don't know, like... Yeah. Because it was so life or death, and it was such, like, an extreme situation they were in, really they left with, like, the memories of what they experienced, but there's nothing that impacted their day-to-day. Like, everyone was fine, no one was injured, no one had anything happen to them in an effort to get out.
Yeah.
And there were character deaths, but I don't feel like we knew the characters enough for it to have an impact on us. Like, it didn't even need to be a main character, but could it have been, like, a side character or...
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone that, like, just would have packed a little bit of a more emotional punch to really give it that, like, oh my God, yeah, like, we are in a war. We're in the war. So that was my thoughts, but, like, fantastic book. It was just me being nitpicky about, like, the setting it was in. But I guess that we can move into like plot and characters. So what were your ratings on those, and then thoughts on the plot?
Yeah. So characters, I had 5 out of 5. Again, Nate really, I think, brought the story together for me. Spice, I had it as 2. I think Rebecca does a great job at, not every book needs to have it. And I know there's some people who are all for it. And if that's the genre they read, that's amazing. I definitely have those moments where you have to read certain genres and that's what you focus on. But I don't think this book needed it. It progressed the book enough. So that's why I gave it a 2. Plot, I had 4 out of 5. And then banter, I put it's more like sass. If they were just sassy and had some anger and some issues from all of their past. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. I didn't know how to categorize that one. So I guess both books so far have just been a
Yeah.
banter / commentary. So
Yeah. I had the exact same ratings as you for everything, so copy paste. I loved that there was like not a ton of main characters, like so different from Variation where we had so many characters. I liked that we could really dive in and like get to know these ones, so that was great.
yeah.
I know we kind of touched on plot and like overall thoughts, but were there anything else on like the plot that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we kept seeing throughout the entire book, and we learned more obviously with the flashbacks and everything, but they're magnets, always going to find each other. But the biggest issues they kept having was from Nate's side, never thought he was good enough for Izzy because of her family and how her parents are and all of that. And then I think on Izzy's side, it was very much always waiting for Nate to finally decide what he wants in life. Does he want to still be in the in the army and everything, or does he want to be stateside? Because his main goal at the beginning was get his degree so he can teach. He wasn't ever doing this as a career. It was just something to get him through so he didn't have to pay for schooling and everything, which a lot of people do. So kudos that they do that. So I think that was the big thing of just they kept pushing back on that. So but I liked how it brought the story together. So it was nice.
Yeah.
That was the extra comment I would add there.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. I loved the concept for the book. I love when a dual timeline is done correctly. Like this
Yes.
was perfection. And I agree with your thoughts on Nate. And I'll talk about when we like touch on him. It just like got a little frustrated with him at times where he would not bend or compromise when Izzy was willing to. But he kind of reminded me of Allie in the sense of like he was living for other people. I think he was scared to like take a risk. So that's but I'll dive more into that when we talk about him. But let's start with Izzy, who is our main female character.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I really liked her. I think she had a lot going on in terms of the wanting her parents' approval, needing it really at many times. Was she definitely could not get over the fact that her parents could care less. I mean, she was in a plane crash and your parents don't come to save you, or not save you, to check in on you. Are you kidding me?
They couldn't leave their cruise.
No, because this is a one in a lifetime thing that we don't ever do. It's, come on, your kid's in an accident, you think you wouldn't be there in the first flight back home. I don't know, maybe that's too much to ask, but she had so much going on with trying to be there for her parents in a way that she never could really be, but she kept trying to be. And obviously that's why she ended up with Jeremy after a while. And and I mean, I really liked how it's gonna sound weird, but even though fate with her and Nate was kind of bringing them together, she still kind of went out and dated. I said, good for you, because I don't know if it's just my personality. If I had that type of thing, I don't think I could date other people. I think I would just be I'm going to be at home reading, and then if I see you miraculously 3 years later, oh my God, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just not my thing. But I mean, she wasn't really living either, even though she was dating and she was going through the motions of life. She still kept bringing herself back to Nate at every single moment. I did say on her own, I thought she was a good character with a good backstory, and she complimented Nate, but I think he was the one with the more, with the more background, more information, more story to tell, that they were just nice compliments to each other. So that was kind of what I had there. I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I just put I think at the end of the day, she is just like a hopeless romantic who just wants to be loved and accepted by people. Like that's all she's looking for in all these relationships. And like you knew right off that one scene with her parents what they were like. She also is a very selfless person, which was shocking because her parents were so selfish, but it was very clear by her actions when she's in Afghanistan and you know, she's staying to help process visas and do whatever she can to jump in, help other people get out. Her and her sister both were very selfless people. And I totally understood her frustrations with Nate throughout the book because he was so like unwilling to leave the army to pursue something with her and kept being like, it's not our time. But then he would, and when we get to him, I'll talk about like, then he would get like frustrated with her. And like, she was so willing to like mold into his life. And like when she was willing to take a law job in North Carolina to be close to him, like, and he kind of shut her down. I felt bad because I'm glad they ended up figuring it out because I do think she would have stayed in that cycle forever. Because like even if she did marry Jeremy, if Nate had popped up, like I think she would have divorced him or stepped out of the marriage to pursue something with Nate. So I was glad that they figured it out at the end. But we can move into Nate because I feel like we have a lot to say about him. So you loved him. Why did you love him?
I just like when there's a lot of Hudson. I liked because he had a lot of good qualities. I love how Nate just had so many things going on. You know, he was in it obviously because him and his friend Torres wanted to be in the special forces, and they were living this dream and all of that stuff. So there was a lot there that kind of kept him moving. And no, I don't want to be something holding Izzy back. She's got to do better and bigger things with her life and everything. So it was just so much. And I mean, we learn as we go forward, why he had the injuries to himself before the plane was that he had the abusive father. Obviously, like we said, he is never good enough for Izzy. And then on top of it, too, every single moment he goes, I don't care that there's a bunch of other politicians here. You are my main focus and I literally will die for you. You are not getting harmed. It just added another element. And I just thought it was so, he was so sweet, but also had a lot of things going on that were hurting him as well. But I mean, I think he was doing it to himself too. But it was just it was really good. And to your point, when we had talked about variation, how there were so many characters, I liked how this one really got into the nitty gritty for both of them because there's so much to unpack. If they didn't go into the two of them and we had a crazy amount of side characters, I don't think I would have liked them as much. So I thought it was well done that we got, he was like an onion with many layers.
He was Shrek. He was Shrek.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I felt like this was just like a classic romance book where it's just like the girl and the guy, and we're just focused on them. There's some other outside characters that come in and out, but the focus was them and their emotional connection, and you got to really go through the relationship with them. Where variation, there were so many different characters and different like side quests happening. It was hard to like at the heart of it be in that emotional connection with them. So I think that's why this one I preferred more. But yeah, with Nate, I agree. Like, love him. He was written so well. He's on par with Hudson. Like you said, she writes really great male main characters. I do think I liked him a little bit more than Hudson just because of how complex he was. We obviously learned a little bit about like his dad being abusive and like they hated each other. He liked his mom. She would come and visit him. But I wish we did get some flashbacks a little bit more on his family background. Like, not too graphic, but like what did you experience, like just to give a little bit more of a peek into him and like life growing up on the farm. But you could really tell, like, despite that terrible upbringing that he had in a home environment, like he was really such a good guy at the end of the day, like would do anything for anyone. And honestly, I thought his biggest flaw was that he was just doing things for other people. And like you mentioned, the biggest example was moving forward with the special forces thing because it was what Torres wanted to do, and Torres didn't want to do it by himself, so he was like, oh, will you do it with me? And then Torres dies in the middle of it, and instead of being like, I didn't really actually want to do this, I was doing this for him, like maybe this is my opportunity to go to college, get my degree like my original plan was, he felt like he needed to keep doing it because he was taking on the guilt of his friend's death when it was not his fault at all. And again, it just reminded me of Allie in that sense, like just the guilt and being like, well, I need to give up my life to amend for this thing that I didn't it wasn't my fault anyways. And then I just complex he was. I just would get frustrated with him though when he just kept saying to Allie like, it's not our moment. It's not our
Yeah.
moment. And then he would tell her like, especially when he got past his 3 years in the army, like you have to do 3 years to get the college. I got that. Totally get that. But when you were past the 3 year mark and like it was very clear he was super into her and she was really into him and she's telling him like, I want to be with you. They're going on those like vacations with each other once a year. Like she's like, I want more than a trip every year or every 6 months.
Yeah.
He could have left. He had the opportunity to go to college. Like he could have easily gone and done something different because he wasn't even passionate about the army. It was just he was good at it. And I think he was just nervous to take a risk and potentially fail at something. Mm-hmm. And it probably had to do with the abuse and being told that he was a failure or something as a kid. But I got so annoyed because I was just like, you're holding, he was the reason that the relationship was held back. And then he would tell her like, well, it's not our time yet. I'm not going to make this sacrifice for you. Even though she was willing to make a sacrifice for him. And then he'd be like, but don't wait for me. Like, go live your life. And then she would talk to him about, like, people she was dating. Or, like, when she got on the plane to Fiji. And she was like, I literally just broke up with someone on the way here. And he's like, you didn't have to come. But then he's like, but don't. Then she says his name. And like, his inner monologue was like, I didn't need to know the name. And it's like, then don't tell her to date other people if you didn't want to know about it or you didn't really want her to do that. It's like that I just got frustrated with him, but like I understood at the same point like why he was doing that. It's just he found something he was good at and he was sticking to it.
Yeah. And
I think he was scared of risks, which is funny
God,
as someone who takes risks every day in the army.
It's such a crazy point because I think that's something he has to do for his job. And I don't want to say it's controlled because there's nothing really controlled when it comes to that type of, line of work. But when it comes to risks with Izzy, it definitely was, that's a huge unknown of, is she going to be okay with it? Is her family going to be okay with it? 'Cause she still was looking for that approval. And would she ignore what her family thinks and just do whatever she wants to? So it's just yeah, but I totally am with you on the frustration part. It's just, come on, man. You have this person who's willingly ready to try something. He just kept doing that whole, well, you're going to resent it. And what if you didn't want to do this? And what if you hated this and that? And I can understand that, but couldn't you have just even tried long distance for a while? I mean, for Christ's sakes, what is going on? It was just, some of it was a little,
Yeah, especially
get
in
into it.
the early years he was in the army where he could communicate with her like they were talking through letters, but then sometimes they'd go. I understood once he got into special forces because he basically couldn't tell her anything like where he was, what he was doing, so like that's like a lot of a relationship. But yeah I just felt like he put the wall up before they could even try because he didn't want to risk any of them getting hurt. I think it's because like in the army, yes, you're taking risks every day, but everyone has signed up for that and there's almost a sense of detachment, like yes, these are my friends, but like they might not be here tomorrow. And I think I don't know, I've never been in the army, but like just from, like my dad, when he talks about like, I think there is a little bit of a detachment to people. Like you get close, but not that close because there's always that risk that they're not going to make it.
Yeah, you don't want to get too close where you're
like
always
you can still move forward and go about your job, even knowing like my friend just got killed, where I think like if he broke Allie's heart, it would have ruined him. He would not have been able to continue.
100%. Yeah. And I want to jump into Torres quick, and I know this might go into more of the twist, but
Yeah, it's fine.
his character, him and the other folks that are with Nate and his group, whatever their group is called, their unit or something, but um I thought they did a really good job at having those people there, as they were just fillers of, here's some extra people that we need to kind of split up so that it isn't just the two of them talking to each other the whole time. It's Nate has his people to talk to, Izzy has her people to talk to, and so on and so forth. And I did not expect that Torres was actually dead. I could not get anyone straight with who was green, who was brown, who was yellow. I mean, I knew Nate was green because that's like the only one that I actually could follow because I mentioned it 5 billion freaking times. But after that, I really thought Torres was still alive the whole time and that he just was with Nate at all times. But the fact that we find out that no, he did actually die way back, and that was, the person that had passed away right before Nate had come over when she was in New York and was trying to propose to her and all of that stuff. And but then, he's talking to his dead best friend the entire time. Like that did not hit in my mind at all, but I thought that was really good because it was someone that I think Nate was just trying to make up for the fact that he died when it should have been him getting bit by the snake, which, as bad as it sounds, they were in such that mindset, well, specifically Torres, of I need to make it to the next position, that he wouldn't go and seek help because that meant that he might not get in, which I think after a snake bite, I think they probably would let you retry whatever. I mean, what are they going to say? Oh, sorry, you don't have the toughness to deal with a venomous snake. I mean, no one does. It's a venomous snake for Christ's sake. So it was interesting, but I don't know what your thoughts were. The whole time I was so freaking confused.
Yeah, and it does kind of go in like twist, but because that was the big twist.
Yeah.
I had no clue either. I did not pick up on that. I should have, looking back, because when he talks about like I just buried my friend, he uses the first name Julian, and we never give the last name. But
Yeah.
then Allie later is like, oh, I think Julian is like the last name started with an R. I can't even remember. So like I didn't even connect it in the way that Nate was talking to Torres. I felt like he was really in there with the moment. Like he'd be like, I looked to him like, and like he was reflect. Obviously now it makes more sense, but that was a good twist because I did not see that coming. And I agree, like that kind of sucks though. Like that's the way you went out, was a snake bite out of everything that like they dealt with. It was nuts. His character was important though, in the sense I liked that he was still definitely like a character on the peripheral. Like he wasn't super in the story, but he had important moments because he was kind of pushing Nate along to like make a decision. So I liked that. Agree though, like other army guys, there were so many of them. They were nice to like pop into a scene to be like, oh, why isn't Nate here outside of her door? Or like, this one's
Yeah.
bringing me somewhere. But I liked that they, honestly, like, I like that I can't tell you their names. They were there, but they weren't important because I like that it gave us tunnel vision into Nate and Izzy. So I thought that was a good stylistic choice. Also, I learned something new. I mean, it makes sense now that special forces guys can't use their real names in case they get captured.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that, so I learned something new about the army.
I thought it was so entertaining too because they're just, all right, I got to remember these names. And then they start throwing in colors. I go, well, at this
Yeah.
point, I don't need to remember anyone because if you're giving me multiple things to remember, they're not that important to the story. If they were, we would have gotten
Yeah.
a solid name, kept it going. I mean, Torres was probably the only person that I truly knew who he was the entire time. So I think that was done on
Yeah.
purpose, you know?
And his other friends that Allie had met, I think another one of them had passed away. But again, we didn't know much about him. They had like a couple lines when they were at that bar in Georgia. So I wasn't upset by the death, but could see how the death impacted Nate. I don't know. I thought it was really well done with like these side characters. And it was kind of impressive that she was able to get like such a powerful book really with just two characters and a couple people popping in. There were two other people though that did pop into the story. One being Serena.
Yeah.
And I just put that like, I know we got a little glimpse of like her starting out in her career, but I would have loved a little bit to would have loved to know a little bit more. Oh my God, words are hard today. Of why she was really drawn into war zone photojournalism, or like where her passion for photography came. It just seems so random, but I think these girls were trying to do anything to fight against their father and what he wanted.
Yeah.
I did get annoyed when she was being like really stubborn about leaving, but at the same time I understood she was there to do a job and her contract wasn't up, and she was like, I'll leave when like it's at the point I need to leave, but like I can still do my job here. And I wish we got a little bit more on like why Izzy was so determined to find her that she felt the need to like switch the people on the plane and come out there. And I feel like we just didn't get the answer, like had Serena not been communicating with Izzy and providing updates, so Izzy thought she was dead. That's what I was trying to figure out, like why your sister clearly has been here for a while, why at this point now did you need to come
Yeah.
and find her?
I'm with you because I kept wondering. I mean, we get the part of, oh, well, she's really the only family that, not that Izzy cared for, because I mean, she cared for her parents, but it was in the sense of Serena always was, it was the two of them. They fought against everything that the parents had. They were just a unit, just the two. But to your point, there was never a point where it was, oh, she didn't communicate, or oh, something happened in the area and I need to go make sure that she's okay, or someone in her group had died and that I just want to get her out of here. It was very much a, I heard it was a bad area and it seems like things are going to fall. I had this perfect opportunity to start coming over because we were going to do interviews and stuff, which is it's so tough looking in on that because I've seen on the news interviews that there's politicians that go out there and are, in war positions. And then you get kind of this backstory a little bit from the book. And it's probably not the safest place. And these people are just doing it for a PR thing. And it's insane. It's just,
She was just bringing a chess team home.
yeah, I'm okay. This is interesting. Um, But yeah, to your point, I just have no idea why she actually ran away, except for the fact that she just wanted to save her sister. But there wasn't any specific reason, which I think it would have been nice if we got something. I think it would have made it more serious too, of get her out of here because something happened.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other character that was kind of more of a bigger player, bigger side character was Jeremy, which this goes into my second twist. So I guess we've covered the twist of the book. I did not expect him to have been the law school boyfriend.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
To Nate until they gave the last name, and I was like, oh my God, she went back to him. But I have to just say, like, what an asshole. Like, deciding that they're in an open relationship after she was like, no, I have no interest in that. Clearly was cheating on her with everyone, had cheated on her in the past. Mm-hmm. Everyone in his office knew. And then to come out there, fly out on a PJ because she's not answering his calls, and then to leave her in a country that is falling. He took all the other aides, knew she was out with the chess team, and just left her there. Like, buddy, I mean, granted, he's probably pissed that, like, she took the engagement ring off and ended it, but, like, if you wanted any chance of fighting for her back, you blew it when you left with the jet.
Yeah, because she even said, oh my God, he left without me. He didn't even stick around to make sure that I was okay or whatever. It was, yeah, that he was such a piece of crap. And you needed him because it really helped the fact that Izzy and Nate kind of go through all their issues and finally hash out everything that went down. But my God, I just wanted to reach into the book and punch him in the face. It was just a perfectly punchable person. Say that 10 times fast, it would be difficult. Um, yeah, no redeemable yet, to your point. How dare he even think that she'd want to go back with him after that point of just leaving her there? You think you'd wait and try to do some grand gesture of saving her type thing, but we're just gonna take my jet and go home.
Yeah, and he was about to become a politician. He would be a terrible one, clearly.
Oh yeah.
No remorse.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he was. I like that Nate called him Dick Face too, the whole book. That was funny.
Well, that's why I couldn't pick up on who he was, because like, I only know him by his nickname, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, that was everything I had for characters. Did you have anyone else that you...
No, there really wasn't anyone else, which is kind of nice.
Just like the army guys, but they kind of all were one.
Yeah.
I also didn't have any other thoughts for twists or shocking moments, because the only two for me were the Torres thing and then Jeremy being the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other note that I had was, I guess it wasn't a shocking point, but just more of a, oh, that's interesting. The fact that Nate carried around the engagement ring with Torres's dog tag. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, that was the necklace he always had, because they mentioned it multiple times that he wore this at all times. It was with him.
Yeah.
And it meant something. Sweet. Yeah, and I thought it was sweet that it was both people that meant something to him. That he was living out Torres's dream, but also the engagement ring. So I thought that was just really sweet. And a nice touch.
I had no clue. What that was, and I was so confused. Like, why did he tape up his own dog tags? You have to keep that out so people can read it. So that made sense. Once we figured it out, but I did not know what it was until they told us.
Yeah. I don't know. Did you have anything else?
I'm looking at my thing. I literally just wrote for other thoughts. I was waiting at the end for something to go wrong and almost felt let down that it didn't. I messed up, I know. But like I said at the beginning for my rating, like, I just feel like because of the environment we were in, so high stakes, you're so anxious reading the book, like, oh my God, are they gonna like make it out of Afghanistan? It felt like things happened with, like, tied up with a bow too much. I needed as my drag goes off, I needed a little bit of, like, someone loses an arm or something. Like, we have to have a lasting impact from this moment.
I was gonna say, like, lose a limb, give me something
break an arm, like, I don't know, like something to be like, oh, they were in a war zone, they weren't just like in New York City or something. I just know how emotionally wrecked I've been at the end of Rebecca Yarros' books. If anyone's read The Last Letter, what she does at the end, I was expecting that, like, where it's just like you think things are good and then she just hits you with one final gut punch, or the end of Onyx Storm, the end of Iron Flame, where like you're like, okay, like we're kind of in a shitty spot, but like this is the worst it's gonna get, and then she hits you with another punch where you're just like, ugh. I was waiting for that, and it did not happen. But I liked that they ended up in Maine at the end. They ended up like where they had said that they always wanted to be, with the pine trees that sway. Oh, and I have to say, I loved that Izzy, when she sat down on the plane, her first thing was to be like, yeah, did you know the most dangerous part of a flight are the 3 minutes after takeoff and the 8 minutes leading up to landing? Because when we just went away in September for my birthday, I'm sitting next to Matt, and I don't know what prompted him to say this. He literally turned to me and he said, well, the most dangerous time as we are on the runway, he goes, the most dangerous time of a flight is the takeoff. And he started giving me those stats, and I was like, I love that this girl knew all plane crash statistics.
Oh my God.
And this is what she was saying to comfort herself. And it just gave me such a flashback to that moment of him telling me that. I was like, why would you tell me this as we're about to jet off on the runway?
That would literally make my anxiety go through the roof at that moment of, goodbye, that's it. You're getting panicked, Meg.
He's like, once you're in the air, you're fine. It's just like, the takeoff. You got to be worried about those couple minutes after the takeoff. I was like, thanks.
Yep.
But those were all my thoughts on it. Anything else that you had?
No, that was pretty much it. It was a really good book.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is an easy question, but like, which one did you prefer?
I definitely would go in the likely event for sure.
Yeah, same. I think this, for her romance books, I think this is second on my list. I think Things We Leave Unfinished I still liked a little bit more, but I'm also biased. I love World War II stuff, and it was centered around that. So that one still just like edges this one out a little bit. But I think I would go, I've read 4 so far. Things We Leave Unfinished, In the Likely Event, Variation, and then The Last Letter. The Last Letter I really did not love.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fourth Wing, that whole series blows all of them out of the water, but
I was going to say, I don't think they're on the same. Yeah, I know, right? It's just, here's some dragons, and then here's some modern day,
Yeah. I love the army aspect of her books, though, because like I learned so much and that I did not know. Maybe that's why Variation. I was like, come on, let's dance. Put a little more army in here. I would love to know more about a Coast Guard rescue.
Yeah, I know. That was interesting. I totally could
There's
have
only
been
350
up for
of them.
That. Yeah. That was pretty impressive. He's just jumping out of helicopters.
Mm-hmm. All right, but I think that wraps up these 2 books.
I think so. Yeah. Our next
Hit us
episode,
with the outro.
Yeah. Just back it on. So our next episode will be on December 18th, and we'll be doing a year-end wrap-up, which is crazy to think about the fact that we're already here already, discussing, how many books we've read so far, our top books of the year, worst books, definitely have those, and then, what we're excited for and looking ahead to in 2025, which I'm already doing the writing 2024 instead of 2025 in the year for everything at work. But for anything else, Booktroverts, if you want to see updates on anything that we're doing, book club episodes, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at BookTrovertsPod. Leave a rating, review, book recommendations, all that jazz. And we look forward to chatting with you again. Bye, everyone.
Bye.